Now, Barack Obama couldn't get up there after he took his hand off the Bible and say, I am going to raise taxes so that 40% of the economy is controlled by the government. He couldn't say that. He didn't dare to say it politically, and he knew that we're in the middle of a recession, and he couldn't do it anyway. So instead he said, I'm going to increase spending to a point where it's 40% of our economy. And I'm going to borrow the money. And then I'm going to leave to the next Congress in 2011 how we pay for that spending that I just sent out the door in my stimulus package. And just like Ronald Reagan created and raised the budget deficit so that liberals couldn't spend more money, Barack Obama has raised the budget deficit so conservatives would have to vote for higher taxes. And the minute that new Congress, which I think the Republican Party will control, both houses, and that also is not rhetoric, it's math. Read my book 2010 and you'll see exactly who the targets are and the dirt on them and what we have to do to beat them and how to beat them and what your role is in beating them. That's why you really need to read the book. It tells you what you can do other than coming to rallies and writing checks and voting. But the point is that when those Republicans walk into Washington, they're going to be greeted by a $1.4 trillion deficit that is destroying the country. And the New York Times and the Washington Post and the LA Times and the Democrat Gazette and USA Today and NBC and CBS and ABC and CNN and MSNBC, sorry to mention so many four-letter words, is going to say, we got to raise taxes. Cut spending, but raise taxes. Now, Fox isn't going to say that. And the question is, will the Republicans we elect toe the line and vote no on higher taxes? Now, there's a thing called the Pledge to America by a group called Americans for Tax Reform. And this group has a pledge that says, I will not raise taxes during my term of office. And we need to make sure that every Republican running in the primaries for any office signs that pledge. Because, you know, it's a little like the pledge to honor for the rest of your life till death do us part. About half the time they mean it. But if they refuse to answer, that marriage isn't gone anyplace. So it is crucially important to cleanse the Republican Party and then use it to sweep the Democratic Party out of power. The reason we lost in 2006 is that we were corrupt. Out of the 200 Republican incumbents running for the House of Representatives, 10 of them were under indictment, or had resigned, or were in jail, or were en route to jail. 5%. Now, I would challenge you to tell me any city, and any group within any city, that had a 5% felony rate in 1 year. The highest crime neighborhood in Washington was the House of Representatives. And the voters threw us out. And they replaced one set of crooks with another. And we got Charlie Rangel writing our tax laws. He has a house in the Caribbean he forgot about. Can slip your mind. We have Chris Dodd in charge of the banking system. He got a subprime loan from Countrywide as part of the VIP program. We have a congressman who had $80,000 in his freezer. That is what you call frozen assets. But the Republican Party has not become pure automatically just as the Democrats are worse.
McCain.
And the function of the Tea Party movement, the function of Americans for Prosperity that is hosting this meeting, is to purify and cleanse the Republican Party so it is worthy of power. And you have to use those primaries in November, in May, to purify the Republican Party. That's your mission. That's your job. Now, let me explain why we have to cut the deficit by cutting spending. This is how we're financing the deficit. What's your name? Yours? Polly. Okay, Polly is here, and I'm going to make Polly the head of the Polly National Bank. Okay? And I'm going to be the Federal Reserve Board. And I'm going to come to Polly and I'm going to say, Polly, in your bank, do you have any mortgage-backed securities there? Any stocks or bonds you've sold that are collateralized by mortgages that people hold? And Polly's going to say, do I have them? I'm drowning in them. I have huge amounts of them, and none of them are worth a damn thing. They're all underwater, which means the mortgage, the debt, is worth more than the property is. And nobody's giving me any payments each month. And they're sitting in my vault and I can't get rid of them because nobody will buy them. And as the Federal Reserve Board, I say, Polly, it's your lucky day. I'm going to buy $100 million of your mortgage-backed securities. And after we pick her off the floor, the poor lady says, how many cents on the dollar are you going to give me? And I say, I'll give you 100. And she says, you are out of your mind. But I take out my checkbook and I write a check for $100 million and I give it to her. Don't worry about it, there's no money in the account. But that check's not going to bounce because I'm the Federal Reserve Board. And that's how I print money. I don't use a printing press, it would take too long. I give her a check for $100 million in return for nothing, and I've just created $100 million. That is how we have printed $825 billion in the last 15 months.